A lot of people are asking for Nick. They're saying, where's your brother? Are you the brother?
Do I look more like you?
So yes, we are twins. Yes, we are twins.
Do I look more like you or do you look more like me?
No, you look more like me.
Because you're famous. So
No, it's not famous. It's more just like they can't tell us apart. You guys look alike. I reckon next year for Magic Round we do a podcast at the Caxton Hotel.
They're very welcome.
Those who are walking around the Caxton. You got all your blokes, rugby league gurus, and Fletch and Heine were up there. Alfie Lange made a little bit of a cameo. I saw him dancing on the D floor upstairs.
So I reckon just skim from here on. Just like skim. We'll spend like maximum 2 minutes on each.
Yeah. But it was good. It was good. A lot of fans out and about.
Let's get to some questions.
A lot of drunk fans. But yeah, while we wait for the live to kick off over on YouTube, we'll go through some fan questions.
Joshua Haney.
Yeah.
Are you playing for St. Christopher's Rugby League Football Club?
Oh, look, I'm not playing. I think I'll go down and help out. Maybe a dummy halves coach or just go help out the under-19s team. Under-19s?
Under-18s.
Under-18s team over there with super coach Richard Kairouz. So I will be there over at Bill Delaunay Oval every now and then and catching their Friday night games.
Okay.
Welcome to another episode of Prime Time. I'm Jon-Bernard. I got my brother Nick beside me. Massive weekend of sport. Magic Round was upon us. I was there in Brisbane. It's boys. If you saw the TikToks, boys, beers. And they do love to frequent the strip clubs.
I didn't realise that many people were that open about saying strippers on camera.
Mate, I'll tell you, kittens and honeybees were the most popular answers of people that... obviously, the boys, they're on trips, so they go, big day at the footy, catch your 3 back-to-back games. Then they'll go get beers over on Caxton Street, and then it's a free-for-all. And then you obviously lose some of your mates, but majority of the boys are ending up at strip clubs. And as well, a lot of people are shouting out, there's some beautiful women there. Beautiful rugby league women.
At Kittens or just in general?
No, just in general. No, along the street. And it's funny, rugby league women fans, they're on the beers as well. They're out the back of Caxton.
They get it?
They get it. And it's a great, fun weekend. We'll be heading up next year.
Yeah.
Goal of the year, we do a JVK show. We do a prime time at the Caxton Hotel.
I'll be down for that.
Yeah. But let's get straight into it. Nick, what is the fan question of the week?
Fan question of the week comes from Thomas Obeid. Mm-hmm. Why doesn't the NRL have a rivalry round?
Rivalry round? So what do you mean? Like we have all the big rivalries in the NRL play each other?
So the way the round would work is all the big teams, all the rivalry teams would play each other. Dragons versus the Sharks, Broncos versus the Cowboys, Manly versus Melbourne, Roosters versus the Rabbitohs, Bulldogs versus Eels, and maybe throw in a Dolphins Titans. There'll be an odd team out there. I think that a team will have a bye like Magic Round.
Well, why don't they just do the draw for Magic Round with the big rivalries?
Because you could make a separate round from it. Why wouldn't you? Everyone is going on about the success of Magic Round, how good it is for the game.
But do you do it in one location or you do it across everyone's home ground?
Personally, I would actually love to see it all at suburban grounds, or that team's home ground. So you could have Sharks at Shark Park or at Wynn Stadium, because that's going to be a good game.
Everyone has a rivalry. What? So you're going to have to maybe match up Penrith versus the West Tigers or something like that?
There'd be 3 to 4 teams that don't have rivalries as much as other teams do, and they would have to just makeshift that game. But if you play this game every year, then it becomes a rivalry, and it's becoming something that they would tune into every year and go to.
You'd have to match up fan bases that absolutely hate each other. Bulldogs versus Parramatta. South Sydney absolutely hate Roosters fans, and vice versa. I reckon that works.
It'd be a great idea, and it'd probably produce a lot of money. Say you do it like, round 20 when nothing's on, post-Origin. There's not really much exciting about rugby league besides the team's ladder position. Put in a rivalry round, generate some sort of interest in a late round, fixture. And I think the only teams that would be, not happy about it are the teams that don't have a traditional rivalry. Maybe the West Tigers, Canberra.
This would make your rivalry, though.
Yeah, this generates the rivalry. So
but maybe we just match up like a Canberra versus Warriors.
Yeah,
and just make that a rivalry. They always end up in a close game.
It'd be like an Anzac Day game. Melbourne and the Warriors, not really traditional rivals, but on Anzac Day, that game's coming, and the fans show up for it.
Well, we seem to start having a round for everything else in sport. Let's just do a rivalry round.
Yeah,
how about that?
I think it's a great idea.
Volandis, we got Vegas next year. Maybe add rivalry round to the list. But Nick, who was your team of the week for Magic Round?
My team of the week was the West Tigers, going back to back. I didn't tip them. I didn't think they would win, but they've proven me wrong. And winning 2 games in a row after being shit on by me and a lot of other people throughout the whole season so far Congratulations to the Tigers. 2 wins on the trot.
Credit where it's due.
I don't think they'll win this week, so I'm not going to pick them for 3 in a row.
Yeah, no, they got Penrith this week.
No, Penrith. They've got... The Tigers have the Rabbitohs.
The Rabbitohs, so apologies. But they've played admirably the last 2 weeks. Some scrambling defence to try and get those wins. And best of luck to them. I think Latrell and the Rabbitohs will probably be a bit too strong for them. They're not going to go 3 in a row. But, mate, the West Tigers fans that were in Brisbane, they were stoked. You could just feel they're going to go back-to-back.
Well, West Tigers superfan Hammy Goodman.
Yes.
He said West Tigers 13+. They didn't get the 13+, but they did get the win, so he should be happy.
My team of the week was Fins Up, the Dolphins. Surprisingly, in Brisbane, a lot of Dolphins fans. A lot of Dolphins jerseys. A lot of people yelling Fins Up to the camera while I'm on the street interviewing the fans. They obviously love the team. They played for Wayne Bennett. It was his 900th game. And like I said, we've been saying it all year, he's the master.
I'd never really put as much respect on Wayne Bennett's name as I probably should have. And this season's shown me why. Going in against a premiership favourite in Cronulla, one of the heavyweights of the competition, and upsetting them, outplaying them.
But they didn't just beat them. They put 30 on them in the first half.
They were killing them. And that's not something that you should be shy about saying Wayne Bennett is a super coach. He could go to any NRL team and turn the club around.
It just makes you think, what could a Wayne Bennett do at a Dragons this year? What could Wayne Bennett do at a Bulldogs? Obviously, coaching does play a big role. He demands respect from his players, and they just want to play for him. The Dolphins are killing it. They're going to... I know it's only been 10 rounds, but they're looking like a top 8 team, the way that they're playing. And you got to think, Noah Sullivan, you know, they've
had some injuries.
They've had some injuries throughout the season. So to do that to the Cowboys, to do that to the Sharks, respect. And respect to all Queensland teams. Pretty much an all-round upset from Queensland teams. Cowboys back on the map too. I'd like to see them go on a bit of a run. It looked like they found their last season form. In the game over the weekend.
Just couldn't do it when we bet on them against the Warriors.
Yeah, they let us down that couple of rounds ago. But who was your player of the round?
My player of the round is the sexiest man in rugby league, Reece Walsh. Easily, for me, the best player in rugby league at the moment. He's up there in Dally M. I think he's second only to Payne Haas. But he's missed 2 games. Every time he touches the ball, it's electric. He's fast, he's agile. He's somehow always just looking like he's going to make a line break. And on the weekend against Manly, he was unstoppable. I think he had like 13 tackle breaks, which is like the most of any player this season. So if you're doing that, I've actually got him down for Dally M this year. If he can continue this form, it should be
I don't know
Dally M
about the voting. I know he was out earlier on in the season.
Missed the first 2 games.
So I don't know. I think the way he's playing and the form that he's in, he's the best player in the comp at the moment.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he does get picked for Queensland #1 now.
Well, I'm going to continue to ride the Broncos with my player of the round being Selwyn Cobbo.
Great game.
Hat-trick. You know, he cannot do many wrong at the moment. I mean...
Look at this intercept try.
Intercept try. He was everywhere. His carries out of his half are very strong. For a young kid, what is he, 19 years old?
No, he'd be about 20
years
now.
old. He reminds me of like a GI.
He's got the same body shape as GI. And it's just the speed. I mean, I know Tom Trbojevic is holding himself back there, but he blew him away. Tom Trbojevic basically gave up 20 metres into the run. And I think... the way Selwyn Cobbo runs the ball out of his half, great carry.
Yeah.
It's something that of a winger you expect to be playing extremely well. And then you look at Origin, he's probably going to be a shoo-in for Origin now.
I mean, what is your best Queensland Origin winger pairing right now? Do you base it on form? Do you pick on who was playing last year?
Well, they've got a great headache to have. Billy Slater's got a great headache here for his wingers. There's Xavier Coates, Murray Taulagi, Selwyn Cobbo, Habisai Tabuai-Fidow,
great pronunciation,
and maybe Corey Oates as potential Queensland wingers. Who do you pick out of those 4 or 5 players?
I'd even have a look in at Fidow because he's been killing it.
He's the most informed probably player at the Dolphins,
and he can play on the wing. He's played on the wing. He played on the wing for the Cowboys last year. But I think you got to go with the best performing at the moment, which is Selwyn Cobbo as sole wingers and Xavier Coates.
Yeah, I think that's what they had for game 1 last year. Murray Taulagi, yes, he played for Australia, but I don't think he's in the same form as he was in last year. And Xavier Coates, I've actually got as my best winger in the comp.
And
just pure size and skill.
They're 2 of the best last tackle options in the comp.
Especially if you're going to have maybe Josh Adokar up against you, or
Toto.
Brian Toto, you need that size advantage. So I think Xavier Coates and Cobbo will likely be the wingers, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Taulagi or Fidow as the Queensland wingers as well.
I'm going to say it, shaping up to be just as good as New South Wales. Queensland could go into game 1 in Adelaide as favourites.
I think the only thing...
What separates them?
The centres. If you got Latrell Mitchell at centre, is a big separation.
With Tommy Turbo, you know, up and down in form, is he holding back with injury? And then you also have Campbell Graham, Sua'ali'i, who are you going to pick? I feel like there's not that much difference between them. You've got Val Holmes, who's a quality player as well.
But Dane Gaga's kind of fallen off a bit.
I don't know if Dane Gaga gets picked.
Well, then who plays centre?
That's what I mean.
Maybe Fido can push into the centres, but has he played centre? Is he a strong centre, defensively especially? I don't know.
It's a tough one. I'm going to go over to Magic Round because we touched on it at the start of the show.
Big success.
Big success. Great weekend. Some have already predicted that Magic Round will take place in New Zealand possibly over the next few years. It's committed to be in Brisbane next year for 2024. But I don't know. I feel like Magic Round's home is in Brisbane. It's a success. It's always pumping. It's good fun. It's a rugby league fan's heaven.
Yeah.
Right? So many boys' trips down there. Everyone gets around it. I couldn't see it going to New Zealand, especially this time of year. It's probably colder in New Zealand. It's not going to have that Caxton Street that's pumping all night. I don't know. I don't see it going to New Zealand. Andrew Johns has said eventually it will be moved.
I think where Andrew Johns has said that, he's come out and said it should stay in Brisbane for the foreseeable future. But once it hits its kind of expiration date, once it becomes boring in Brisbane, then move it, which I agree with. Leave it in Brisbane. Everyone has so much fun in Brisbane. It's still fresh in Brisbane, so leave it there. I think they only want to give it to New Zealand as a make-up for, the time they spent in Australia during COVID. It's like a gift to the fans of New Zealand. But even then, let it stay in Brisbane until it becomes stale.
But does New Zealand compete with the likes of Bris Vegas? Does it have the Kittens? Does it have the Fortitude Valleys? Does it have the Treasury Casino? I don't know. I've been to New Zealand once, and it was for a day and a half where I played for the Manly 20s.
Did you play?
But I didn't get to go on the field. They benched me the whole game. So I just got to experience New Zealand for a bit.
I would say keep it in Brisbane until it becomes stale. So Magic Round will stay in Brisbane.
Okay, what about the Cronulla Sharks? We spoke about their upset. Very disappointing performance over in Brisbane. Like you said,
it's a couple upsets now they've had this year.
Premiership favourites, if they put in performances like that, do you still see them being at the top of the ladder come the end of the year and going on to be in the grand final?
I think they still have the squad to be premiership favourites or premiership heavyweights. But if you're going to be dropping games against the Dolphins, against the Warriors, it just doesn't look good. And it's the way they're losing as well. They got completely dominated from start to finish. And if you consider yourself a top team in the NRL, you just can't have these performances because when it comes to the finals and you're starting to, Matt Moylan's missing tackles or players are just not playing up to their standard.
I love Moylan. He does let them down defensively a little bit. I know he had that centre on debut across from him. Big boy. I wouldn't want to tackle him, especially close to the line. 2 tries, he killed it. But you got to be a bit stronger defensively over there. But in saying that, if you look at the draw from here on out and right now, who is favourites to be minor premiers? South Sydney Rabbitohs. They got a relatively easy run for the remainder of the season. They're playing in really good form.
Yeah.
They're very strong across the park. Forwards, backs, Latrell firing. They're going to be hard to knock off as minor premiers. They're like $3 favourites.
They'll have more players picked for Origin than the Sharks will. So I think Sharks could have a good Origin period, especially if Hines doesn't get picked.
Nah, he's getting picked. I feel like if Hines gets picked, they might struggle.
Yeah, but I feel like good teams have these types of games every year. They have a game where you're just surprised, where they didn't rock up, they didn't show up to the game. So I think the Sharks will be fine. They'll put in a good effort against Manly this week. If they win that game, everyone forgets what happened against the Dolphins.
Now, Mitchell Pearce has been on record saying that he is open to coming back to the NRL. If you're a club in the NRL right now and you're in need of a halfback, why wouldn't you just give him money to come over? Just throw anything he wants. Well, he could command anything from $700,000 as a veteran halfback in the game. He was quality wherever he played, especially at the Roosters. And he was solid at Origin level. He's an Origin level halfback. If you're a club like the Bulldogs, like the Dragons, or
the West Tigers, they wanted him.
Even the Dolphins, I would say, to get a veteran 7 who's a quality player, I would throw anything at him to get him back in the NRL.
And he's playing in England at the moment. I think he's enjoying his time there. He stated
Catalans Dragons.
When the Tigers were after him, he said, "I want to win a premiership here with the Dragons, Catalan Dragons, and then think about moving back over." And like you said, if you're any team outside of maybe the Eels with Mitch Moses, Nathan Cleary, Nico Hines, unless you've got a premium number 7 in the comp, you should be looking to sign him, no matter what he costs, because it could transform your entire club and your entire season.
A directional halfback that's going to get your team across the park.
And I know I'm saying this selfishly as a Bulldogs fan, but if the Bulldogs don't go after him, I'll feel insulted.
I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up back at the Roosters. With everything that's going on with their halfback dilemmas right now, and they're trying to force Manu to being a 6, that hasn't been working over the last couple of weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of links back to the Roosters. Uncle Nick gives him a phone call. Because right now, yes, you can say you're comfortable at the Catalans Dragons sipping on coffees in France, you know what I mean, and not having too much media attention. Because that's the detriment of being in the NRL. There's cameras on him all the time. If he slips up and reverses into, a car, it's going to be all over the news.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think there could be a deal worked out there. I'm not trying to start any speculation, but I could see him going back to the Roosters.
I mean, I hope he doesn't, because he's coming to the Bulldogs.
Yeah, that'd be a great signing. Tommy Turbo, we saw him over the weekend. He still looks like he's holding back a bit. Doesn't look like he's at 100%. He's come out and reassured everyone he's just not in the best form at the moment. He hasn't been playing great, but he feels fine. He says he's at 100%, which means he wants to play Origin this year.
I think he's obviously he looks like he's not 100% all there. You looked at that Cobbo try. He just pulled out of it. He's not extending his muscles. And I haven't seen a player cop this much abuse from every fan club about how much of a shit player he is this year. I understand.
I wouldn't say he's been shit. He's still one of Manly's shining lights.
He scored lots of tries.
He's not up to the standard that he has been playing in previous seasons. And if he's not at 100%, do you pick him for Origin? That's all anyone's contention is.
Yes, you do. We said this a couple of weeks ago. If he's fit and healthy and puts his hand up to play, just based off what he's done previously and what he can do on his potential, you pick him. Tedesco came out and backed him for Origin. He said, if Trbojevic is fit and healthy and he's put his hand up for Origin, you pick him no matter what.
But who's to say if he's fit and healthy? Does he have that relationship with Freddie and go, mate, I'm fine, I'm ready to go, I will turn it on in Origin? Plus, you've got to think he's going to be surrounded by quality players in Origin, which does elevate your game. He's not just trying to carry a Manly team who's been injury-riddled as well. They haven't had Schuster.
And he's not having to play fullback. In Origin, he's going to play centre, which is less mileage than what a fullback would do in a game. And look, yes, he hasn't been playing well, but over the next 2-3 games, I think he's got the Sharks, and I think he's got the Tigers, or another couple easy games. He will have a good game and put all this to bed. I predict
all it takes is one big game and everyone's going, okay, he's picking for Origin.
I predict this week against the Sharks that he'll have a great game. The media will jump back on the bandwagon. Everyone will say, yes, he's getting picked for Origin, and everything will be put to sleep.
Well, Cherry Evans, speaking of Origin, has come out and said Olakau'atu is playing unbelievably this season. He almost doesn't want to give him the ball because he knows how good he is, and if he's picked for Origin, how bad that could be for Queensland. I got to say, Haumole Olakau'atu is the best second rower in the comp.
He's the most damaging, easily. I mean, every time he gets the ball, he's got 3 to 4 players hanging off him and he's still walking 5 to 10 metres. And Cherry Evans, I know it's a playful answer. Yeah. I'm not going to give him the ball anymore. But that is the epitome of mate versus mate when you're playing Origin. He's going to be playing for New South Wales, probably running a line at Cherry Evans, and Cherry Evans just scared it because he knows the damaging potential that Olakau'atu has.
With players like Cam Murray potentially being in the second row, Angus Crichton if he's fully fit and healthy and wants to play Origin, you also got Liam Martin and Olakau'atu. Would you start Olakau'atu in the second row, or would you have him coming off the bench?
I'd start him. I think Cam Murray is a waste in second row.
I'd play him at lock.
I'd have him starting at lock, or even start him at prop and just let him play in the middle. He's a middle player. He's a freak in the middle. He's one of the best locks in the game. I actually think he's a better player than Isaiah Yeo.
He went down a few times over the weekend. Everyone got a little bit nervous to be like, if the Origin team, the New South Wales team, have a few players continually going down, it's not looking good. Like I said, I could definitely see Queensland going in favourites to game one.
Well, they've got a great team. It's not the team of 2020 where they were replacement players, or even last year where they were riddled with injuries. Mm-hmm. They've got a great outfit now with good forwards and great backs. So it's a fair team that could actually be betting favourites in game one. I don't think they will be because New South Wales has the better team. Mm-hmm. But even then, mate versus mate, Olakau'atu is going to run a try through DC.
He might line up against Cherry Evans. Yeah, imagine having to bowl over your own halfback. But that's the epitome of Origin. That's why we love it. Now moving on to Joseph Sua'ali'i.
Big rumours.
He made massive headlines when he decided to switch over to Rugby Australia, and he has aspirations of playing in the World Cup. They're now saying that the Roosters have gone a little bit sour on him. He hasn't strung that many good games together for the Roosters since he made that announcement of him signing with the Wallabies and Rugby Australia. Now, Danny Weidler has come out and reported that the Roosters are in talks to release him early.
Why?
Now, mind you, it's Danny Weidler reporting it. We don't know how true it is. It could just be speculation. It could just be trying to start rumours because the Roosters have been struggling over recent weeks.
Just kicking a team while they're down. Just leave the guy alone. He hasn't been playing well, I understand.
If the Roosters are winning games, do the talks of Suali to be released early happen?
No, not at all. They're only here to just build up on the pressure that the Roosters are in turmoil. But if you're the Roosters, you have a quality centre winger in Joseph Sua'ali'i. Why would you ever think of letting him go? If you got aspirations of winning a premiership this year, you would never think of letting a quality player go. The same reason Dom Young hasn't been released from Newcastle.
Yeah.
You want your best players on the field at all times.
But from their point of view, and what others in the media are saying is, they could use the money that they're paying. He's on about 700,000 as a winger centre, right?
He's worth it.
Okay, they could use that money to maybe re-sign a Jackson Paulo, or they could use that money to blood another centre winger that's going to be with the Roosters for the next 2 years.
It doesn't.
And in more recent weeks, now I think he's a phenomenal player, and I'm not saying they should do this, but should they use those funds to start preparing for next season?
No. You prepare for the season that you're playing now. Especially now, the Roosters are premiership contenders. You put all your chips in, you go all in every year. And if you're not going all in every year, what are you doing as a club or as a team?
Well,
if you're the Roosters and you're saying, you know what, we're thinking of next year, we're thinking of the year after, you're not thinking of winning a premiership this year, you'd be angry as a fan.
Now,
Why the hell would you do that?
The weather didn't help them during Magic Round losing to the Cowboys, but they've been disappointing. For the squad that they have, they haven't been stringing good games together. Everyone's coming under fire. It's not just Robbo, the coach, and his selection decisions. It's Manu for getting touches. It's Luke Keary for leading him around the park. It's also, Brandon Smith, has he been living up to his hype and the money that he's on? But the thing is, if they're winning, no one's asking any questions.
Winning cures everything. I think where people are just overreacting is it's still so early in the season. We're only 10 rounds in. I think they're maybe, two wins away from second place in the ladder. It's not that big a deal.
And I think they're only one loss of where they were off last year.
Yeah, so I think everyone's got to calm down. They haven't been playing well. I'm not a fan of what they've done to Sam Walker, dropping him. But even in saying that, once he comes back into the team, or even if, Joseph Manu starts stringing some good games together, they've got so much damaging potential. And they always do this. They did it last year. They started off slow, and they come good towards the end of the year. So expect them to get it right.
Okay,
Brandon Smith will get it right as well, and they'll start playing well.
Do you think they bring Sam Walker back in sooner rather than later? Do they give this Luke Keary-Manu experiment one more week?
Well, Walker's named on the extended bench this week, rumoured to possibly play this week. I mean, if you listen to some Roosters fans, they say, look, Robbo knows what he's doing. He's just disciplining him.
They have full faith in Robbo. He's like a god.
And you know what? He deserves it. He's a quality coach, probably the top 3 coaches in the NRL. But if you are if Walker is your long-term halfback, put him in now. Start getting your team right. Get your combinations right. Let Brandon Smith know what Sam Walker's doing. They need that connection. So I think he'll probably be in sooner rather than later. And the longer you leave it, the worse it is for the team.
Speaking of Joseph Sua'ali'i, each week we're going to go a player head-to-head.
NRL player matchup head-to-head.
So we're going to match up either forwards together, backs together from opposing teams, and just see who the better overall player is. This could be based on stats. This could be based on their overall performance over a number of seasons.
Or just our opinion.
And just our opinion in general. This week's player matchup is Joseph Sua'ali'i versus Campbell Graham. Now, there's a lot going into this because both could be picked for the New South Wales Blues this year. And based on the numbers, I got to say, I'm leaning a bit more towards Campbell Graham. So we'll go through it. Campbell Graham right now is sitting on 11 tries. Joseph Sua'ali'i, 1 try.
That's a big discrepancy, but Campbell Graham is the inform centre of the comp right now, so it's expected for him to be the leader in tries. I think he's had a couple hat-tricks, so that's not surprising.
They both have 2 try assists each
for
this season.
As a centre, try assists don't really matter.
But who would you say looks more dangerous with the ball when they have the ball?
I'd say Sua'ali'i has more damaging potential, but Campbell Graham has looked better this year, and that's just a simple fact of it.
Defensively, I'd say Campbell Graham is one of the best defensive centres in the comp. He's absolutely massive. He bullies some centres. Whereas Joseph Sua'ali'i, I've seen him put some shots on, but I don't think he's as strong as a defender right now compared to Campbell Graham.
The more important question is, who are you picking for Origin? That's really what this is. Head-to-head matchup, Sua'ali'i or Campbell Graham.
But I think just around the stats, Campbell Graham has got him in every metric, even running meters. Campbell Graham on averaging 142 running meters this season. Sua'ali'i not too far behind, 114 running meters this season, averaging 114 meters this season. So, I mean, again, I'm leaning towards Campbell Graham. If you base it on stats, if you base it on form, Campbell Graham deserves a crack in this year's New South Wales team.
I'll surrender that Campbell Graham has been better on form and he's been a great centre this year. But if I was starting a team or if I had the option to choose a centre, I'm taking Sua'ali'i over Campbell Graham. I think he's got more
just
damaging
quietly,
potential.
one of them's going over the Wallabies as well this year, so that'll be playing in the back of someone's mind too.
I mean, that just shows you why didn't the Wallabies sign Campbell Graham? Because they know Suali is a better player. He garners more worth and more
Well,
money.
I'd say it's because he's a more versatile player. He can play fullback, he can play in the centres, he can play on the wing.
And if you look at what Suali did for Samoa in the World Cup as fullback, it showed what he's capable of. He's a great player.
You can't really see Campbell Graham floating out the back and being a
And
fullback.
if you're looking for a smaller role as a complementary role as a winger or centre, I think Suali can do a better job. If I'm picking an origin winger, I think Suali is better under the high ball. He contests more. And I think his run out of his own half is better than Campbell Graham's. I know it's not showing in the stats, so I can't really say that too confidently.
He's leading him by 11 tries. So.
I mean, if Suali was playing outside Latrell this year, I think he'd have more tries. So it's a product of your environment as well.
The Roosters do have a strong squad too. So I don't know. I'm leaning towards Campbell Graham, but that brings us to our top 5 this week. Each week we do a top 5 of anything and everything in sports, really. You can catch our top 5s on our social at Jon-Bernard K and subscribe to the YouTube at the JBK Show. You can also check our top 5s at Picklebet as well over on Instagram. This week's top 5 is top 5 biggest sports in the world.
Top 5 most popular sports in the world.
Mm-hmm. So this is based on popularity. We're going to bring in stats and figures into this because we are a stats-based show. We like to fact-check a lot of things. So as I said, top 5 most popular sports in the world, starting with number 5, tennis, coming in at number 5. And I agree with this. A lot of people get into tennis recreationally, whether you're young and old. It transcends generations. Right now, according to the stats, over 1 billion people in the world play tennis. 1.13% of the world's population play tennis.
1 billion total fans for tennis in the world. 1% of the entire world does play tennis, whether that be professionally or recreationally. So, I mean, it's not surprising. Around Australian Open, all the big Grand Slams, everyone tunes into tennis.
It's a worldwide sport. There's Grand Slams across the globe. That makes sense. That's tennis at number 5.
And it's probably the only sport where I enjoy watching females play, and they play it well, as good as the men.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. And they get the same prize money.
Yeah. At number 4, hockey. Very surprising at number 4.
I don't get hockey.
So this includes both field and ice hockey, with a total fans of 2.2 billion people in the world. I don't know where these 2.2 billion have come from. I don't know anyone that watches hockey. I know a lot of people that play field hockey because it's a girls' sport in Australia. But even then, who's supporting this? Where are the fans coming from?
NHL is massive overseas in the States.
Northern Europe as well.
And Canada. Ice hockey is huge. So I understand from that aspect. I didn't know it could come in at number 4. Field hockey. Imagine your son comes up to you and says, "Dad, I want to play field hockey." I mean, it's not the most manly sport. I mean, you got to respect the skill. It looks hard. But that's a surprise for me that's at number 4.
Who watches field hockey or ice hockey? I don't know.
I don't know. Number 3, this makes a lot of sense. Basketball. Yeah, basketball, again, a massive worldwide sport. We've got NBL over here in Australia. NBA is a massive global product. Looking at the stats alone, the total fans of basketball in general, 2.4 billion people. Again, it gets popular around NBA finals time in Australia. And just global superstars. In the 90s, it was Michael Jordan. Right now, it's LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. It's a game that can be played by everyone. You know, whether you're a small point guard shooting threes or big centers. And I agree with it. The numbers in juniors over in Australia as well just continues to climb. NBL's getting bigger and bigger here. Basketball's a massive sport, and that's number 3.
I'm actually surprised it's not higher on the list. Everyone you know tunes into basketball or plays it recreationally, and it's probably the most global sport that I could think of, probably besides soccer. But at number 2, cricket. With a total fan base of 2.5 billion people.
That's because of the Indians.
Well, by the stats, approximately 90% of these fans belong to the Indian subcontinent, which probably includes Pakistan, India. I mean, for a game that started in England and that doesn't really garner a lot of attention outside of India, Australia, and England.
Well, they have such a massive population. What is it? Like a few billion people.
They're closing in on 2 billion in their type of population. But I just think people don't give cricket enough respect. It's actually one of the most, revenue-generated sports in the world as well. If you look at their superstars, Virat Kohli, one of the most popular athletes in the world.
He's up there with the Ronaldos and Messi.
He's only trailing Ronaldo and Messi in terms of Instagram following for athletes in the world. So that shows you the popularity of cricket. These Indians love their cricket, and it shows in the top 5 why it's so high. Cricket at number 2.
Number 1, I think it's an obvious answer. Football.
Soccer.
Or soccer. The alien fans might start crying on Twitter if you call it soccer. But again, this one's pretty obvious. It's the world game. Football's played everywhere. The junior statistics are massive. They got 8 divisions playing under 8s, right? It's the world game. It's very easy to understand. Ball goes in net. That's a goal. That's 1 point. It's not hard to learn what's a foul and what's not. Offside, very easy to understand. It's a world sport and can be enjoyed by everyone. FIFA is huge across the globe as well.
World Cup's massive.
World Cup, coming off a massive World Cup. I mean, anyone and everyone can understand the game of soccer, play the game of soccer, or football, apologies. And it's the world sport for a reason.
And looking at the stats, 3.5 billion recorded fans worldwide.
Jeez.
That might be an understatement. I think it could be higher because everywhere in the globe, soccer's played. You tune into the World Cup, one of the biggest, actually the biggest sporting event in the world. And you look at the stars, Ronaldo, Messi, Neymar. They're the biggest global superstar athletes in the world. So if you're looking at the most popular sport, it has to be football, soccer, whatever you want to call it.
That makes a lot of sense. That's our top 5 most popular sports in the world. Couple honourable mentions I'm surprised didn't make the list. Rugby.
You were surprised it didn't make the list?
I'm surprised rugby did it. It's a global sport as well. It's an Olympic sport.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. And I'm going to count WWE as a...
Wrestling's not a sport.
Okay, no, I'm only joking. But maybe UFC could have been on the list as well as a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the AFL round. Looking ahead to the AFL upcoming round, what's the biggest game of the week?
AFL Week 9, we're going with another Collingwood blockbuster, Collingwood versus GWS. You saw what Collingwood did last week to the Swans. I called it. I said it was going to happen. The Swans were coming after Big Dick Dacos. Nick Dacos had a great game again. I think he recorded above 25 disposals. So expect again for Collingwood to put a number on the Giants. Everyone's coming after the Collingwood fans. Everyone's coming after Collingwood. Guess what? They're top of the table. They're 4 points clear top of the table. This is their year. The flag pies are running wild. So expect Collingwood to have a great game again this week. Nick Dacos, I'll take him for 30 plus disposals. And just add to that, MVP, Brownlow resume.
Yeah, right now they are premiership favourites being top of the table. It's good to see being crazy. I mean, we got some cousins over in Melbourne that are nutcase Collingwood fans. So we hope they are getting right amongst it. I think it should be another win this week. Sydney have been fairly disappointing. That's a couple of losses now to continue the season going into round 9. But something that I thought was a bit strange coming off this weekend was the Sydney Swans putting out a statement condemning some Collingwood fans for booing Buddy Franklin.
This was a bit much. Read the statement, but I wasn't a fan of this.
A few lines from the statement saying, Lance is a champion in the game and his contribution to the AFL should be celebrated and respected. Fans are the lifeblood of our game and have the right to cheer. They have the right to cheer loudly at the football, but booing isn't right. It's offensive and players should not be subjected to it in their workplace.
This is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. I understand where they're coming from in saying that Lance Franklin's a great of the game and shouldn't be booed. But if you're an opposing player entering an opposing stadium, you should expect to be booed. Lance Franklin has done a number on Collingwood in the past. He's scored many goals against them. So I don't blame the Collingwood fans for having a bit of, a distaste towards Buddy Franklin. And they should be allowed to boo him.
But that's the atmosphere of AFL games. In fact, any sport in general, in the NBA, in rugby league, fans are allowed to boo. You pay for a ticket, you can boo whoever you want. I mean, look at last season, Jack Ginnivan getting booed.
Yeah, what's the
You know
difference
what I mean?
between that? Wayne Carey has put out a tweet saying, what's the difference between Jack Ginnivan and Buddy Franklin?
Oh, he called it a massive overreaction from the Sydney Swans putting out a statement, and also Collingwood agreed that booing shouldn't take place. How are you going to tell a paying customer, a fan, to not boo an opposing player? How about we just start banning anything that might be offensive, like bringing your team's flag into the stadium, or just, booing umpires? I mean, across every sport, Kevin Durant goes over to the Golden State Warriors. He's going to get booed. Is that offensive? Is he going to claim offense to that?
You got to expect this as part of sport, and this is what makes sports great. Everywhere in America, every time a player gets booed, it's because he's obviously done something to that team, whether it be something of their excellence. It doesn't matter. Looking at the AFL, Collingwood condemning or saying sorry on behalf of their fans is just telling of society nowadays. Somehow society is ruining sport. I understand you don't want players to feel uncomfortable and they're the flagship of your game, but you can't have players not get booed. There's something about the AFL. Everyone says they've got the greatest fans in the world. They've got top 3 in attendance worldwide. You're deterring fans from coming to the game if you don't allow them to boo opposing players.
Well, they're saying that booing is offensive, right? That's the most politically correct statement ever. Booing is a part of sport. Booing is like, you cheer on your team.
You boo the opposing team.
You boo the opposing team. You boo bad decisions. You boo bad bunker calls, or you boo decisions in the game. It creates the atmosphere. How are you going to ban booing from a stadium? Or just say it's bad behaviour?
The same thing as well. It's not, as long as it's based on innocent. Looking at Queensland Origin, I'm a New South Welshman. If I go to a Queensland game or an Origin game, I'm going to boo Queensland. I love Cameron Smith, but if he plays against me, I'm going to boo him. It's just the nature of the game.
If I wear a New South Wales jersey in Queensland, I'm getting yelled at. I'm getting booed across Caxton Street. Is that offensive? No.
That doesn't make you uncomfortable.
No, I'm not going to cry about it, Sydney Swans. Like, seriously, where are we getting
This
at?
is, as an AFL club, the Sydney Swans should actually be embarrassed that they've made this such a big thing in the AFL. There's so much good things to talk about during the AFL, what a week it was, what great games there were, but the biggest talking point coming out of it is Buddy Franklin got booed at the MCG.
Yeah, and
grow up.
If you're a professional sporting athlete, you get paid enough money to understand you're going to come under some criticism. You're going to get booed at a game. Just that's the way it is.
And people have problems with Instagram DMs that are death threats and all that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something that's completely different,
Yeah.
and that's something that is wrong. Booing a team or a player at a stadium is the right of a fan and should always be allowed. And if you get rid of it, you're ruining sport.
I got to agree. That's very soft from the Sydney Swans. Stop carrying on. But let's go over to our NRL tips and picks for the week. We do our tips and picks each week at the JBK Show over on YouTube. You can check out our picks at Picklebet as well over on Instagram. Nick, some big games this week. I'm slowly catching up.
I was ahead by 6. You outscored me by 2, so I've only got a 4-point
Between
lead.
myself, you, and our dad, Rich, our tips, the loser of this tournament has to get a full body wax, 40-year-old virgin style. So a lot riding on the line here between some hairy Lebanese men. First game, Thursday night, Storm versus the Broncos.
At Amy Park.
Huge.
Broncos are in form. They're playing really well.
Yeah.
But I expect the Storm to turn it around. I've taken the Storm here. Just picking them based on Melbourne being in Melbourne and Craig Bellamy not losing back-to-back games, I'll take Melbourne.
I'm going to take Melbourne as well. I don't like to bet against Melbourne. And again, Broncos are in form. But Melbourne at Amy Park, I think they want to have a strong showing. They were very disappointing over in Magic Round. So I'm going to take Melbourne here as well. And I think Richard's taken the Broncos. Bulldogs versus the Warriors. This is tough.
This is tough.
But it is at a core stadium.
The Warriors, I think they've got their winger out, Kosi, with a knee injury. The Bulldogs are looking good. Josh Adokar is a big in. He's back, wanting to perform well so he can make the Origin team. So I expect a big game from Adokar. I think the Bulldogs having a home game, coming off a disappointing loss last week against Canberra, they're desperate for a win. I'm going to take the Bulldogs here, not confidently because the Warriors have been a surprising team this year and a good team. But I'll take the Bulldogs here for a close win.
Josh Adokar's going to be playing like a man on a mission over the next 3 rounds because he wants to solidify his spot in the Origin team. If he doesn't make the Origin team this year, I think that's his representative career over, depending on how the wingers perform. But I kind of want to see him there. I want to see him have a big shine because when he wasn't injured, I think he was a lock for an Origin wing spot. So but for this game, again, every time I tip against the Warriors, the Wars fans, they blow up over on social media. So this week, I'm giving in. I'm picking the Warriors this week. I think the way that they've been playing, they've stepped it up this season. The coaching's been excellent. They've got some quality players. As much as it hurts me to go against my Bulldogs, I'm taking the Warriors. Richard's taking the Bulldogs. Panthers versus the Roosters on Friday night.
Another tough game. Roosters need to bounce back, but Penrith, you can't bet against them. I understand the Roosters are looking to turn it around, turn their season around.
Not with the form that they're in and the indecisiveness that they've had over the last few rounds. Again, I'm going Penrith as well. I think they're going to be too strong.
I think Penrith will be too good. My dad's taken the Roosters here. I just think he's trying to go against the grain, catch up on tips.
Yep, we've got Cowboys, Dragons. Now, the Dragons have stayed in Queensland after Magic Round. You'd think Anthony Griffin would have been sacked by now, but I think they're just waiting for him to touch back down in Sydney, and they'll hand him his papers.
What's so stupid is they lost last week to the Tigers of all teams, and they've picked the same 17 that played last week. You think, just based off last week alone, they looked best when Ben Hunt was at 9 and O'Sullivan was playing halfback. You think they would start the game. They could still start the game that way, but Anthony Griffin, it's like you're trying to get fired.
Yeah.
Help yourself out, mate. Put Ben Hunt to hooker and let your team play their best footy. But, Cowboys coming off a big win. It's Cowboys all around here.
I think Anthony Griffin's thrown in the towel. I'm going with the Cowboys. It looks like they're going to get back to their best, and Magic Round could be the turning point for their season. Now let's look over to the Rabbitohs versus the Tigers at a core stadium.
This is an easy one. Look, as much as it was a miracle that they beat Penrith and that they beat the Dragons, they're not going 3 in a row. I'm sorry, Tigers fans. Rabbitohs are the most informed team in the comp, and they'll continue winning
Two
here.
strong minor premiership favourites. Everyone's going Rabbitohs there. The Raiders versus the Eels at GIO Stadium in Canberra. No Mitchell Moses for the Eels, which is huge.
I've had a late change here.
Yeah.
I didn't know Mitch Moses was going to be out because of that stupid 11-day rule. But I'm taking Canberra here just because Mitch Moses not
It's for the
playing.
safety of the players, Nick.
Yeah, but I want to see him play.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure if he had the option to play as well, he'd
play.
say he'd want to play.
Yeah.
Especially for a pivotal game in your season where, Eagles are starting to get a bit of good footy going and they need to win to keep their spot in the 8 alive. But
Do
Canberra's
you think
4 in
the
a row.
11-day rule's a bit too much from the NRL?
It's a bit too much, yeah. I mean, what do you really... Has it been scientifically proven that if you get 2 concussions in 11 days, you're gonna die?
Are we the only code that does this 11-day rule?
I think
when it comes to a
I think the
concussion?
NFL has some strict concussion rules, but that's because Will Smith ruined their sport.
Well, you got to also think that there's not that many car crash collisions like there are in NRL games.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit much, especially for... There should be degrees of head knocks. If you get totally blacked out, where you're like Victor Radley, having a seizure on the field, maybe miss 11 days. But if you cop a light little head knock and you foul a HIA, just,
Okay. What about the Knights versus the Titans?
This is another tough one. Newcastle coming off the bye, the Barley boys.
Yeah, fresh
They should
tats done over in Bali.
They should be relaxed.
Exactly.
But the Titans are the better team. They had a great win last week, so I'll take the Titans here. Not confident, but I'll take the Titans.
I'll take the Titans as well. Dad's going with Newcastle. Manly versus the Sharks at Brookvale. Mind you, Turbo wants to start switching it on before Origin kicks off.
Yeah, he wants to make a statement, though. I just think the Sharks, because they lost last
Coming
week,
off that loss.
it was embarrassing. You got to tip them to win here. Manly, if Josh Schuster's still not playing, I think he's rumoured that he might play. I think he's on the 17, 18 interchange bench. But if he's not playing, I can't tip Manly here. They just don't have the talent to overcome a talented team like the Sharks, so I'll take the Sharks.
Richard's taken Manly. I'm taking the Sharks as well. Again, Nico Hine really wants to ramp up his performance and really solidify his spot as the number 6, which I think he'll get picked as. And the Dolphins have the bye. Instead of going over to Bali like last week's Newcastle Knights when they had the bye, they're going over to PNG.
Are they
They're going to help
really?
grow the game over there, which is very admirable from them. And that's how you do the bye round if you're not going to, train like NRL players should be. But that's our tips and picks for the round. Let's preview now the NBA playoffs. Some key games today as of recording. The Lakers just went up 3-1 against the Golden State Warriors. Huge game.
Very dangerous. Being up 3-1, I don't think anyone saw this happen. This has a Game 7 written all over it, this series. But they did steal a game on the road, and they held home court. So the Lakers, looking like the most dangerous team in the comp. If you look at early in the season, no one thought the Lakers could do this.
No.
With the team that they have, LeBron, Austin Reeves, they're putting the team on their back. And Anthony Davis, if he stays healthy...
Starting to performing defensively though too.
Yeah, they're one of the most strong defensive teams. But if you look at all the series, Miami's up 3-1. That's probably the most least interesting series of them all. But Phoenix-Denver, that's at 2-2. And Boston-Philly, that's at 2-2. So we could get a couple Game 7s here. Nothing better than an NBA playoffs Game 7.
Well,
And it's looking like
Phoenix brought it back. Boston brought it back. They're really making it interesting for us. I can't really put a finger on who is going to advance to the finals.
I still think Boston are much better than Philly. Philly have had 2 great performances from James Harden, which have stolen 2 games from Boston. But if you look at Boston, they'll win next game at home, and they should go on the road in Game 6 and win. So I still think Boston will win in 6. Phoenix-Denver, that's just a series I can't pick. Nikola Jokic is playing like a man on fire. He's one of the most informed players, and I'm someone that hasn't given him his flowers, so I'm giving him his flowers now. He just scores 30 points without you even noticing. He's a freak. And if you look at that series, Durant and Booker, outside of that, Phoenix has nothing. DeAndre Ayton's playing like a bitch. Everyone's calling him a pussy for playing like such a... Jokic is just scoring on him with ease.
Yeah.
There's no defensive ability to him at all, and he's not really... They're playing Landale more minutes than he is. Like, for a number 1 pick, he's got to show up. And
Well, at 2-2, that series can go any way, I think, from here. But what happened over the last game was Jokic got a tech for essentially trying to grab the ball from the Phoenix Suns owner. Now, the Phoenix Suns owner tries to grab the ball back off him if you look at it, and Jokic gives him an elbow. Now, I probably shouldn't have done that. I understand. But now they're talking about possibly suspending Jokic for a game or possibly more for what he did to the owner. Now, if the NBA suspend him from pivotal games to potentially go on to play in the finals for, shoving an owner who probably shouldn't have been there, I think that's a bit much. Andrew Bogut came out and tweeted as well. If the NBA do this, it's beyond cooked.
I mean, both people are stupid in the situation. The owner, just let go of the ball. Why are you being stubborn for? I understand you're the owner of the team, but in the same breath, Nikola Jokic, you're the star player of your team. You know if you push anybody, it's
Even if
going
it
to
was
cause...
just a fan in general, you can't do that.
I mean, you're pushing the owner. I mean, he probably didn't know he was the owner, but it was a big elbow. I mean,
Okay, I mean, he really sold the...
He did. He flopped
He
went back.
backwards. It wasn't even that bad. He was trying to get the ball. It's in the heat of the game. He does not deserve to be suspended.
Should he be suspended?
No.
The answer is no. It would change the entire series. And for a Phoenix team, you wouldn't deserve to win the series if the best player in the series gets suspended.
And it's not like it's something that happened on court, like Draymond kicking someone in the nuts or stepping on someone. You know what I mean? This happened to someone that shouldn't even be that close to the court, shouldn't have even been holding the ball or trying to take it away from Jokic.
The only reason he shouldn't be suspended is because the idiot owner held onto the ball. Just let go of it,
Yeah.
mate. You're not in the game. You're a spectator. Let him grab the ball. But in the same sense, Jokic, don't push him. Just let it go.
Now, moving over to football, specifically international football, yes, soccer. Lionel Messi's being linked to a Saudi Arabian move.
$400 million a year contract.
That would be huge. Now, I don't know if he's just doing this to rival Cristiano Ronaldo, who was paid somewhat $230 million to go play in Saudi Arabia. But Al Hilal, I believe it is.
That's the club that wants Messi.
Now, are going after Messi. I don't know how you could turn down $400 million a season. He's been linked to other clubs. He's been linked to, I believe, in America, Inter Miami, and he's been offered equity in the club as well.
Well, all through the start of the year, they said his time at PSG will come to an end and he'll likely move to Inter Miami. But
He has the option. He has the option to stay at PSG. I think it's in his favour as well.
PSG's done. He's left. He got suspended by them. I don't think he's going to play another game to finish the season. The fans have been booing him like they really can boo the GOAT. I don't understand that. And if you're getting offered $400 million, how can you turn that down?
But there's also been rumours that he could potentially go back to Barcelona to finish off his career. There hasn't been any offer made, but it would be a fairy tale finish to his career to go back to Barca where it all started.
I was speaking with the Nick Knows Balls boys.
Yeah.
Nick Stav and Nick Pagano, they said for Barcelona to get Messi, they'd have to sell too many players. They don't have the money to get Lionel Messi back. So the only real moves are him going to Al Hilal or going to Inter Miami. And
Well, imagine Saudi Arabia having Ronaldo and Messi in one league, and they are saying the Saudi Arabian government are helping fund this, okay, speculative, because they want to make a bid for the World Cup in 2030. So imagine having Ronaldo and Messi as Saudi Arabian ambassadors for the game, and then trying to get a World Cup there in 2030. It could happen, but I don't see how you could shoot down $400 million. It's too much money.
The only thing that would prevent him going there is wanting to play Champions League football, boost his stats, boost his legacy, just to prove to everyone that he's the clear-cut number one player of all time. But if you are Lionel Messi, the PSG fans don't deserve you. I think he's realised that. They've cost him a Ballon d'Or this year, essentially, because they're not going to win the Champions League. And PSG fans, you're the worst fans in the world.
Well, moving over to combat sports, Aljamain Sterling. We were talking about it all week. Nick, you picked him.
Yeah,
okay, you
told
thought
Jack, mate.
Henry Cejudo was not going to be able to cut it coming back out of retirement, the gold medalist.
A lot of controversy there. Everyone, after every UFC fight,
If it goes to a decision, every UFC fan is going to say, "Oh, this guy was robbed." No, looking at Cejudo's performance, he didn't look as sharp as he once was.
no, not at all.
You know what I mean?
it wasn't even that he looked sharp. It's just Aljamain Sterling, he won by a split decision, so obviously there's going to be a bit of controversy there already. But he was the champion and he did win. You just got to look at it on face value. Cejudo did really well. He shouldn't have retired. I don't think he will retire either. But Aljamain Sterling, he's the champion, and to beat the champion, you've got to be more dominating. Happened to Adesanya in a lot of his championship fights. It's just the way of the UFC.
And Cejudo also, not Cejudo, sorry, Sean O'Malley, Suge Sean, came into the octagon afterwards, trying to tease the next fight for Aljamain Sterling. Now, I think a lot of people would pay to see that. It's definitely in talks. They shaped up to each other. Very WWE-esque promo. So that could be the next money fight for Aljo, and he shut a lot of fans up, which was interesting to see. But then you look over at boxing, Gervonta Davis has come out and said he is now the face of boxing, which, I mean, Canelo's still fighting.
Well, this is where. So Gervonta Davis came out, said he's the face of boxing. Canelo says, I'm not retired yet. You've still got a lot of work to do. Then Eddie Hearn's come out. He's put out and said, Canelo Alvarez, not Gervonta Davis, is the face of boxing. And in all of this, I just want to know, where's Tyson Fury's name?
Yeah, but you got to think he's retired. I mean,
I'm a casual boxing fan. I'll openly say that.
Well,
I didn't know who Gervonta Davis was prior to fighting Ryan Garcia.
No, well, that's a bit silly. Everyone knows Tank Davis. I mean, he struggles selling his fights. He's very prominent in the US, and US boxing fans know him. But I mean, like you said, it's hard to kind of, without a central promotion, it's really hard to build yourself up as a face of boxing when you have like your Devin Haney's. Then you got your heavyweights like your Tyson Furies. Who is the one central figure in boxing? I mean, Conor McGregor walked into boxing and was the biggest thing in boxing.
Well, I just want to
Floyd Mayweather at one stage was the face of boxing. They struggle having one central figure like the UFC does, and that's where boxing's going wrong.
They don't have the star power that UFC fighters have nowadays, and that's maybe because of the one promotion. But the sad state of boxing, if I'm arguing over Canelo Alvarez or Gervonta Davis for the face of boxing, it's just not it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, if they said Tyson Fury, I probably would have kept
would've
scrolling on
agreed.
Twitter and be like, yeah, Tyson Fury is the GOAT.
Well, keep an eye out because allegedly Tyson Fury is going to be announcing his next fight. Could happen in Dubai.
I mean, I saw Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua might happen as well. They're big names.
That could be
Heavyweights.
Big heavyweight boxing on the way. We also have Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz coming up as well. But that wraps us up for prime time today. Thank you for joining in. Always subscribe at the JBK Show and take a look at our picks and tips this week over at Picklebet. But thank you for your time. Until next time, take it easy.
Thank you.